look at this beautiful Volkswagen Group mid-sized electric family SUV. Have you ever seen a mid-sized electric crossover SUV from the Volkswagen Group that looked so emotional? Nah, can't do it. No matter how hard I try, I just can't convince myself that this is like a proper good-looking car. It's a lovely car, obviously, but good-looking? For me, nah. I think it's the bulby arse. It's a bit boring. And just before we get into this properly, I would love it if you subscribe to my little channel. Love it. It really helps out, especially now that YouTube said I can monetize it, so you get to sit through adverts too. But no, seriously, if you could, that would be mint. Thank you. So I know that what I think about how a car looks doesn't matter at all. There are obviously design rules, like how you should never wear a top hat at a jaunty angle, but generally, visual preference is the very definition of a subjective topic, yeah? But I do wish they'd made this thing a little bit sharper, a bit less old Macan and a bit more Taycan, because the Taycan is a car that seems to get better looking with every shitty generic looking SUV that hits the shops. Anyway, that's my view. Feel free to be a dick about it in the comments if you disagree. So this is the electric Macan. It's the result of Porsche deciding to do an electric version of its best-selling petrol car. But it didn't want to kill off its best-selling petrol car for obvious reasons, so it decided to put this one on sale alongside that one, making this Porsche's Fiat 500, basically. Now, I am especially qualified to review this car because until very recently, I had a Macan. Like, I owned one. Not just any Macan, a Macan GTS. Just, get that in there. But to be honest, the only similarities between this one and that one, the one that I had, is the name on the tailgate and the distance between the front and the rear wheels. And not even that really, because this Macan is a bit longer. Yeah, so despite looking a bit flatter, it's actually the slightly more practical car. Definitely more rear legroom, which I know for sure because you're an asshole. And the floor is completely flat now, so the poor idiot in the middle rear seat gets a better deal. The boot is significantly larger than it was, and now there is also a substantial front boot, or to use the classic British portmanteau, a frunk. So look at how this thing compares to other fast electric SUVs that I've picked out fairly arbitrarily. That's right, arbitrarily. But that nonchalance, that insouciance, if you like, is fine, because let's be honest, right? Whoever, as part of the process of getting one of these cars, studied the boot volumes of other similar cars? Well, I didn't. With a car like this, you just want the SUV-shaped thing that drives the best and generally just feels the best. Well, this side of something that's absolutely mental and that you probably can't afford.
Okay, Lamborghini.
So, let's do what you came for. In a minute, a couple of consumer type things to wrap up first. Okay, so there are 4 of these, or not, as you can see, because between writing that and now, Porsche's released this one. Thanks a lot, Porsche. Although it does look mint, in fairness. Starting with a single motor one that's rear wheel drive, and then it gets all twin motor, and they all go 4-wheel drive. And in the turbo's case, turbo, that is, because no actual turbos are involved, absolutely insane speed. The turbo hits 62 miles per hour in 3.3 seconds. Damn, you just don't need your Macan to be that quick. You probably do need it to charge quite quickly though, and it does. All of them do, mainly because the one battery that powers every version of the Macan is more cutting edge than a prawn cocktail in 1974. The max charging rate is huge, but also the battery is configured in 2 separate banks so that the car can charge really quickly, but without too much stress being placed on the system. The result, 10 to 80% charge in 20 minutes. In theory, if all the parameters are right. The officially quoted WLTP range, that's really impressive too. This is not cheap tech though. Ovs. Yeah, the prices, they go from 68 grand for a basic one to near enough 100 grand for a turbo. Now that makes it cheaper than a Taycan, albeit as with any Porsche, the options list is an absolute piss take. This car here, Macan 4S, £77,000 list price. But then with options, it goes up to near enough 100 grand.
I'm not exaggerating.
And I'm sorry, but as lovely as this is, it does not feel like 100 grand's worth of car. I know it's totally predictable whinging on about Porsche options now, still in 2025, but like, It never gets any less shocking. So for example, £444 for this electric charging flap, which you just have to press a bit less hard than a manual charging flap. Now, I know that it's quite useful if you're the sort of dotty person who leaves their charging flap open and then drives off. I've never done that. But you know, 444 quid. Having said that, some of these options are genuinely worthwhile, like the stereo, Bose, the surround view camera, the gloveless gloves, and, well, I'll let you be the judge of this one. Is that the sound of sport? I don't know. Remember that programme with Tim Allen, Home Improvement? Oh yes, and there's the extending tow bar system. Nothing funny about this. Nothing at all. Lol. Okay, so it's practical, it's quick, and it's bloody expensive. So, it's dead good, you know. Shocker, eh? So by every standard metric of what makes a car good to drive, this is just mint at it. Hardly any caveats at all. And there's usually loads of caveats in an SUV style car like this, you know, either the body control's all awful or the ride's too firm to try and make the body control not awful. It's like the steering just feels almost hooked to your senses, you know, it's got that thing that makes it feel really natural somehow. There's proper weight to it and it doesn't feel all artificial. Like, I know it's not like a 911 or a Boxster or something, I know that it does feel slightly artificial, but as far as SUVs go, again, it's just mint. And fundamentally the turning is just really well judged. It's like sharp, but it's not too sharp. It doesn't make the car feel dicky. It is better than 99% of high riding SUVs. And then the driving position, yeah, perfect. Fun fact, the seat is set 28mm lower in this than it is in the petrol Macan. That was fun, wasn't it? I don't know how well you can see it, but you are dropped down in this car like it's a sports car. The wheel feels quite high, the dashboard feels high, but then it's still a high riding car, relatively, so you get good visibility. There is just something intangibly awesome about sitting in a Porsche. There is obviously the fact that you've got a Porsche badge in your line of sight and everything that that means if you're into cars. But it's the way it's set up as well, the ergonomics, just everything about it is just like unique and special. And they have dialed that sense into this car somehow. Yeah, so this might be all modern. I mean, it's all screens basically now, but it still hasn't lost that fundamental innate sense of what a Porsche should be, what a Porsche should feel like. Now, I know somebody who's got like an old Boxster or an old 911 and knows all of the number designations for the specific generations of all the Porsches going back like 1,000 years or however long Porsche's been making cars. They might disagree with that, but in the modern era where Porsche has to make SUVs and has to make electric cars to make money so it can keep making sports cars, this interior is about as Porsche as an
Call off Christmas.
It's about as Porsche as an electric Porsche SUV could possibly feel, in my opinion. And in that sense, it does exactly the same thing the old Macan did, well, the Macan that's got a petrol engine that's still on sale does. As in, it gives you a 5-seat SUV that is actually good fun to drive, like proper. Now obviously a significant proportion of that is in the engineering of the suspension. Yep, this car has adaptive suspension. And while it's not necessary, it does enhance the experience enough to probably justify actually paying for it if you have to. So as compared to the petrol Macan, it's got a bit more bandwidth to it. Basically, it goes harder at one end and softer at the other. And what that means is that you just get more of a sense that it's changing the fundamental character of the car at one end and the other. So it's a bit more comfy or it's a bit more sporty. But ultimately, what you have here, whether it's enhanced by adaptive suspension or otherwise, is an absolutely spot-on blend of like driving feel, of handling finesse, and of day-to-day comfort. For 99% of the time when you are just like going to shops and that in this, it's just mega, everything. Dead refined, it's really quiet, like there's hardly any road noise. Obviously you've got an electric drivetrain which is silent to all intents and purposes. On the other hand, of course, it then steers and handles like a hot hatch. And especially in this one, 4-wheel drive, pure gorilla grip. It just feels really secure, but with that like Porsche edge of excitement. And of course, because it's electric, you get that amazing responsiveness from the accelerator, which gives you this extra sense of control, you know? And then finally, the brakes. So many electric cars have gammy brakes that just don't feel right. They feel snatchy. And it's quite often because they're complicated, blending like a regen system for the electric motor with a traditional braking system. But these pedal feels super progressive, they're dead strong obviously, and that applies at like both low speed and high speed. Some electric brakes, they're like proper Michael Jackson. They really jam on, especially at low speed. Now, there is no doubt that this Macan doesn't have as much character as the other Macans with petrol engines, but it is in every way, often sound, the better car. Oh, and apart from general usability. Now, I know that sounds like a really big thing, especially to throw in this late, and it is a big thing, but that's just modern life, innit? Modern life, because all cars are controlled by screens now, basically. And while this is one of the better ones, it's a new Android-based system, and Porsche's at least stuck with physical switches for a few things. It's just not as easy to navigate as the Porsches of yore. But then again, they had more buttons than a shirt factory. And this is, in my opinion, a splendid example of a cabin that feels totally modern, but also intuitive, and also having a bit of visual creativity, as opposed to looking like a big telly that's just glued to an expansive plastic. And I probably don't need to confirm this, but I will. The quality is outstanding. And aside from a slightly aggressive lane keeping system, which really kind of bumps the steering wheel, but they kind of all do that, the safety stuff is generally nice and passive. This is not a car that screams at you all the time for perceived inattention. I'm looking at you, China. Which way would China be from here? If only I had a compass. Oh, I do. I forgot about that. Anyway, in conclusion, this is as well-rounded a family SUV as you could hope for, but it also drives much better than a lardy-arsed electric SUV has any right to. Well done, Porsche. It is, in my opinion, the best lardy-arsed electric SUV on the market. For me, the only but is the but. Just can't get away with the but. Thanks for watching, you're doing great. If you didn't click subscribe when I said to before, please do it now, because I mean, you've come all this way, right? It's starting to sound desperate, isn't it? Bye!